I could tell that Kate had something on her mind. She seemed distracted while the rest of us talked, eyes fixed on the doorway to the corridor. She gave the occasional nod whenever someone offered to top up her wine glass. Amongst all the laughter and conversation around the dining table, her behavior had gone relatively unnoticed by everyone except me. Under the table, I gave her hand a gentle squeeze. She was startled and turned to me, confusion on her face. I gestured to the kitchen. "Honey, can you help me grab more snacks?" Another glance at the corridor, then a nod. We excused ourselves, and completely unperturbed, Frankie continued with his entirely made-up yet very entertaining story about his travels through Asia. Closing the door behind us, I turned to Kate and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you good?" She frowned. "I know he's a bit of an ass, but Frankie's a damn sight better than my sister's last few boyfriends." Nothing, not even a hint of a smile. "Kate, what's wrong?" A hardness to my words. "Nothing." She shook her head absently, then began pouring some snacks into a bowl. "It's just..." Laughter erupted from the dining room. Jen, my sister, doing that weird snort that had plagued her since childhood. Then, muttering as some of the others joined in with follow-up questions for Frankie. "Just what?" "The friend, the one who came with Linda and Ray," I nodded. "Yeah, the quiet one. Mary, right?" She shrugged. "What about her?" I just stared at her for a moment. "She's at the table." Kate gave me a look. "No, she isn't." I stifled a laugh as I pulled out another wine bottle from the refrigerator. "Come on, what is this?" "I'm serious, Pete. When everyone came into the dining room, she asked to use the bathroom and hasn't been back since." My smile dropped when I saw the concern on her face. That was... I checked my watch. Over 2 hours ago. I placed the bottle down, then quickly peered out of the kitchen door. 8 friends, all laughing and talking and drinking. 10 empty plates, including our own. That woman was not in sight. My sister caught my stare. "What's the hold up on the food, birthday boy?" I feigned a laugh and withdrew back into the kitchen. "I could have sworn," I said. "Shall I go up and check on he? I've already been upstairs twice, and people have used the bathroom since. So where?" She shook her head. Maybe she felt weird or had something come up and left. I thought that too. But her coat is still here. I worked my jaw while I glanced over at the kitchen window. The rain staked down the glass, the yellow smear from the street lights outside against the black night. "And you checked everywhere?" She shrugged again. "Shall I say something?" "No," she said, shaking her head and grabbing the snack bowl. "But can you go upstairs and look for her while I keep everything flowing down here?" "Okay," I said, wondering how, in all but 3 rooms, a person could completely vanish into thin air. Ascending the stairs, I left the warm sounds of company behind, and for the first time in a while, I felt on edge. Surely she had left? I looked down the hall. 3 doors. The bathroom, the master bedroom, and the study. How could someone get lost in here? She's hardly a set of fucking keys. I hesitated, then knocked on the bathroom door. Silence. I stepped inside to find, well, nothing. Bathtub, shower cubicle, medicine cabinet, the sink with the damn leaky faucet Kate kept reminding to fix. The room still smelled of bleach due to the hours of anxiety cleaning Kate had carried out ahead of the party. "Hello?" I jokingly called out to the empty room. Silence, then a distant smash. Some commotion and laughter, Linda blubbering out an apology for dropping her glass. Kate reassured her always perfect host. I shook my head and went to leave the room. Then something caught my eye. Scratches in the wooden door frame. Words that sent a chill through me as I stared down the dark hallway to the other closed rooms. Come find M. Standing at the top of the stairs, I had half a mind to call down to Kate. Then I thought about how much effort she'd put into preparing for tonight, making a good impression that any more disruption would have been unfair. So what if I was the birthday boy? Tonight didn't mean half as much to me as it did to her. No, this was nothing, just a stupid game. I'd deal with it by myself. Not knowing what to expect, I opened the study. A room washed in the blue light from the computer screen. Long, dark shadows stretched out from the unseen corners of the room. A space I spent so much of my time in, suddenly unfamiliar and strange. I flipped the light switch and more of the study clicked into view. Empty again. I took a deep breath to steady myself. My heart knocked around in my chest. Why was I so scared? Kate had already looked around the place twice and hadn't found a damned thing. But that message, come find me. If that was Frankie or any of the others, there'd be hell to pay. And then they could fix the damage caused to the door frame. I walked over to the computer monitor to turn it off. Then I froze. Pixels burning on the screen in tiny yet deliberate letters. So small I had to lean in and squint. Another message. Look closer. Vibration. I startled. Then, on realizing it was my phone, I let out the breath I'd held. It was Kate. Hey, how are you getting on? Fine. Have you found me yet? I frowned at the screen, then figured it was just a mistake. There's no one here, in case something odd in the bathroom, but that could have been Frankie's idea of a joke. Okay. Odd how? I don't know. Look, I'll do a sweep of our room, then come back down. We can ask Linda or Ray what's going on with Mary. Don't be long. Your sister's getting political again. Okay, 2 mins. Click. I spun around to see the door closed and the handle turning back into place. Quickly, I made my way to the door and opened it. A glance in either direction, I saw an empty corridor. The conversations downstairs humming through the floorboards. Annoyance rose up in me. What a waste of time. I was missing my own birthday. Sure, I hated these sorts of things, but Kate had put a lot of time into tonight, and I was doing what exactly? Playing a silly game with someone's +1? This was it. I was done playing around. Master bedroom. Once again, an empty room clicked into view. Our disheveled bed, flanked by knit stands crowded with books. Creams and crap I'd brought in from the rest of the house that I couldn't find a place for. The laundry basket piled precariously high. Kate's makeup bag was upturned and strewn across the duvet, and the wire of her hairdryer snaked out of view. I felt a pang of embarrassment that anyone, let alone an unknown guest, should see the room in this state. We deliberately contained the chaos here. A sacrifice for the rest of the house. Stepping quietly, I moved through the room. I thought of all the spaces a person could hide, how small they could fold themselves away. The spots of horror movie, cliché, the closet, under the bed. Dark places reserved for monsters in waiting. I paused. Did something just move out of view and under the bed? The slightest slither of fabric, the sleeve to a sweater or the hem of a dress skirt, perhaps, suddenly gone. I dropped to the floor with a little more zest than I had anticipated. An effort to scare the bitch out from under the bed left me staring into the empty dark and now nursing a banged-up knee. I cursed at myself. Then I wondered what I must have sounded like to those downstairs. An elephant stampeding through the upper floor in the house. I pushed myself up and noticed the closet was ajar. The cuff of a shirt sleeve was pinched between the door and the frame like a pale tongue. I stared into the opening. Vague shapes in the darkness. Clothes hung like flayed skin. Belt buckle eyes shining. A silk blouse face. If it was not her inside the closet, I was certain that the darkness gazed back. Trembling fingertips pulled the door open. Nothing. And then a knocking sound, sporadic and mute. I turned to see Kate's lipstick, nail varnish, and lotion bottles had fallen onto the floor behind me, and the bed was now occupied. The duvet sheets twisted and swollen into a human-sized knot. For a moment I stared at the shape in my bed. My heart was pounding in my chest. The heap rose and fell with a soft, rasping breath. Strands of long, dark hair plumed out from beneath the sheets like an ink spill. Mary? Silence. Though I saw limbs move beneath the sheets. Subtle shifting of position. What are you doing? My words croaked as they caught the air. Equal parts fear and frustration. I grabbed at the sheets, pulled back. Mary was lying there on the bed, giggling to herself like a little child. What is this? No response. She just stared unblinkingly at the ceiling. Her face was split into a strange smile. She continued to chuckle to herself. I don't know what the fuck you are doing, but you've got to go, I said with some gravel in my voice and pointing to the door. She giggled some more before falling silent. Her eyes slowly slid over to me, and she rose up in one swift motion and backed out the door. I listened to the stairs groan as she descended them. Then, only after I heard the front door slam shut, I blew out the breath I'd been holding. What the fuck? I muttered under my breath as I shook my head. After remaking the bed, I went downstairs and, to my relief, noticed Mary's jacket was no longer hanging on our coat rack. Before rejoining the others, I pressed out a smile and straightened, readying myself for a barrage of lame jokes. Did you get lost? Do you need a spotter next time you shoot off to the bathroom? You were so long that your number 2 became a 3. But I laughed with them all, even though it was at my expense, for I was reassured knowing it was now only us 10 at the table. Anything for the smile that eased its way across Kate's face as I told her everything with one knowing look. Enjoy the walk and the rain home, Mary, whoever you are. The evening flowed with wine, and before long the unease was forgotten. Mary's childish antics were but a blip to an otherwise wonderful night. I managed to loosen up enough to even find Frankie somewhat entertaining. Linda and Ray were the last to leave. The girls laughed as they hugged by the door. Ray shouldered on his coat and gave me a strong handshake. We shouldn't leave it so long next time. Absolutely, though we always say this. Kate opened the door. The couple stepped outside and ducked under Ray's umbrella while the rain beat down. A pleasure as always, I said. Don't be strangers, Kate called out over the rain as Linda and Ray headed toward their car. And don't bring any next time either, I chimed in playfully. To which Ray, as he helped Linda into the car, froze momentarily and stared at me, amusement across his face. Then, while the rain continued its assault, he slowly ducked into the car. There was something in that look that sent a chill through me. A question dislodged from the tarry black recesses of my mind and dragged itself on its torn-up belly into the light. Why was Mary in our house? Kate caught me frowning at the empty space Ray's car had been. She brought me back by gently pressing my hand. Closing the door, we let out a collective sigh. She brought me in for a clumsy kiss and whispered happy birthday softly into my ear. The cold, oily dread suddenly disappeared and was replaced by Kate's warmth. "Thanks," I said, looking toward the dining table strewn with glasses, plates, and half-eaten food. "Why don't you run yourself a bath and I'll take care of the tidying up?" She went to protest, but I shook my head. "It's fine." "Thanks," she said, pecking my cheek and then climbing the stairs. I watched Kate ascend up into the shadows, enter the bathroom, close the door, and listened to the sound of running water. I stood smiling for a moment, then took to clearing the dining room. As I brought plates and empty bottles into the kitchen, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A card delicately placed on the counter. It was addressed to me. Thinking it was another birthday card from one of the guests, I opened it and found a small piece of folded paper, and on that a note. Reading those words, I froze. My mind whirred, and there was a sickly pinch in my guts. Kate. Only the sound of running water. I ran to the stairs, taking two at a time. Kate. Kate. The bathroom door at the top of the stairs. A black square cut with light. Steam billowed out from beneath. I opened the door. Feet splashed on the wet tiles. The bathtub overflown in the room, a hot, milky haze. And nowhere could I see her. Empty again, except the words traced and streaking down on the clouded mirror. Words of dread. Words that shook me to my core. The very words clumsily scrawled across the card still in my hands. "Come find us, Pete."